I get the pleasure of kicking off the retreat every year. Last year was phenomenal. I'm so glad to be back. I know I've got around everybody in the welcome as you registered, and I was sort of saying, this place is amazing, the rooms are amazing, the food is. It genuinely is. You're in for a treat. You're in for a fantastic 3 days, and I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you and spending as much time as possible. What are you going to get out of this retreat in my eyes? There's obviously a lot you're going to get out of it, but I would try and say there's definitely 3 things that I know you're going to go away with. The first thing you're going to go away with is we are going to build a community within this room. We're going to build a camaraderie and a culture within 50 strangers in just 3 days. It's going to be the ultimate lesson of how you build maximum trust and rapport and cooperation and team dynamics in just 72 hours. I promise you that. When we're speaking on Thursday evening, you will have made friends, you'll have made colleagues, you'll exchange, you'll stay in touch with people, you'll have been on a journey, you'll have achieved things, and we're going to achieve that in just 3 days. The second thing T alluded to was you're going to have a deep understanding of self. And I know that sometimes can sound patronizing to people who are in the room who have got 20, 30 years experience at an executive level. We've got some very senior people. We're all senior, we're all experienced. But you will go away from these 3 days with something that you have not sort of thought about before, have not been conscious of. So I think a deep understanding of self is the second thing. The third thing you're going to go away with is you'll be tired. Without question, you will be in that car on Friday or however you're traveling and you will be tired. However, you will have this energy about you. You will have this optimism, this sense of purpose, this renewed, vitalized energy to go forward and apply some of the things that we've learned. So come with us, bear with us, throw yourselves in tomorrow, literally, because we haven't talked about the swim test in the rapids yet, but that will come. And you are going to have a fantastic 3 days. So my keynote today, I'm going to spend 25 minutes max. And I'm going to talk to you about a topic that will underpin the theme for every single thing we do on this retreat. The theme of this retreat is pain and pleasure. Now, you might be sat there thinking, have I signed up for the wrong conference, right? Pain and pleasure. It's important to understand what I mean. I'm going to start off with this quote here. The reason that is the theme is because psychological instability is fueling leadership instability. We are experiencing psychological instability generally in the world that we live in, and our skills have tipped, and we are no longer possessing the ability to endure pain and discomfort as much as we are seeking pleasure and reward. And we've always been built to do the two. We've always evolved as a result, as a species, have been very good at enduring pain, discomfort, and suffering and challenge in equal measure as seeking pleasure and reward. And if you think about this, when I say it's fueling leadership instability, if you go on your social media now and you pull up LinkedIn or Twitter or Instagram or Facebook or anything around leadership curriculum or memes or quotes, you will read things like, great leaders empower others. Incorrect. Great leaders know when to empower and where to disempower. You will read things like, great leaders are supportive leaders. Incorrect. Great leaders are supportive leaders, but they also know when to be assertive. One of my favorite ones I read, I think just yesterday, which I was planning for this, and then I just go off on a tangent and I just freestyle it, but it said, great leaders hire people and get out of their way. Have you ever read anything like that? They hire people and get out of their way. Rubbish. Great leaders hire people and are fully invested in their development and success. They're fully invested in their development and success. And an old military one from my perspective, great leaders serve their people. Incorrect. Great people know when to serve their people, but they also know when to command service. And I think that we're losing the balance. We're losing the balance of what high performance is, what great leadership is, what galvanizes groups of people together to go forward in any endeavor and succeed. So psychological stability, balancing our skills of being able to endure a bit of pressure, endure a little bit of discomfort at times, as well as seeking pleasure, fulfillment, and reward, is the way forward. And boy, are we going to test that over the next 3 days in a good way. So you are the first people, shameless plug at this point, but you are the first people on earth to receive a copy of my new book. It is not launched until next week, and it is in your rucksacks in the front pocket as we speak. So as you go away from today, you will be able to read more about what I'm talking about with this balance of pain and pleasure. I'm going to share a couple of things this morning from the book that I think will start us off on the front foot as we go forward with this retreat. If we are to better understand how the human mind works, then without question, we need to understand what it means to be human. And evolution and science provides us with the best explanation of how these pain and pleasure scales work. If you go back to hunter-gatherer days, 70,000 years ago, we was a very simple creature. We were somewhere in the middle of the food chain, foraging the earth, and your brain had 3 core functions, only 3 core functions every day. Number 1, survival. Every day was survival. Self-preservation is the brain's number 1 innate function. We had to be able to go run as a saber-toothed tiger. Don't walk off the edge of a cliff. Berries poison, fire burns. We had this instinct, this fight or flight response that enters our brain in 7 to 10 seconds to say, switch on, you are at risk here. The second core function we had was reproduction. We had to continue our species. Like any other species on Earth, find a mate and reproduce. And the third core function of human existence was purpose. Even back then, 70,000 years ago, we had to have a role in the tribe, whether that was the hunter, the forager, the caregiver, whatever it might be, the leader of the tribe. We had to have a purpose, a role. And you fast forward to today, we are no different. We're sat in the Cedar Suite at the Grove with advanced technology in 2024 in the world we live in, and we have the same 3 core functions of existence. Your brain is still wired in a way where you have to survive. Number 1, you will protect yourself at all costs. You will have a tribe around you, will continue the species, and then you will carry the burden of survival on behalf of them. And whilst we're here, we have to have a purpose, a role, a sense of belonging. And if these 3 things are met, our psychological stability is pretty good, because we have to endure pain and discomfort and uncertainty, survival, and we have to move towards pleasure and reward and fulfillment, purpose. So pain and pleasure from day 1, from 70,000 years ago, is what governs every single behavior and action we do. We are either moving away from pain and discomfort, survival, or towards pleasure and reward. And at T2, we've worked with thousands of people. We have psychometric tested thousands of people. We've got over 30,000 data points on our database around human motivation and behavior. And this is what we whittle it down to and find. You can be in one of 3 states at any one time. And I bet my bottom dollar you've been probably in all 3 this morning. The neutral state is our comfort zone. The neutral state is when you are neither in survival mode, nor are you moving towards any meaningful endeavor. You are sat with a glass of wine, having a walk, nice and leisurely, whatever it might be, you are even keel. Does this make sense? Your neutral state psychologically plays an incredibly important role. We need time to rest and recharge. We need the time for the brain to recover. So the neutral state plays a key role. The challenge state for anybody who's worked with T2 is when we are moving towards an endeavor which gives us a reward, some fulfillment or a goal or a purpose, but it carries a little bit of risk and uncertainty. So there's something in it for us. It's a challenge. We have a healthy awareness of consequence and risk. Something is not going to be easy about it, but we're up for it. It's a challenge state, and we're going to move towards whatever's going to give us that reward. And we're going to endure whatever it is that we need to endure to get there. The threat state is the ultimate survival state. It's when your brain just goes, hang on a second, you are at risk here. This is no good. Get the hell out of here now. You're nodding, Emma, right? So some of you might have walked in this morning and thought, why have I signed up for this? So threat state is flooding your brain and you just want to fight or flight, right? It's very, very normal. But here's the thing. What was once a true life-threatening response in the brain to a saber-toothed tiger or to a predator or to a threat, what was once true danger is now a perceived threat in modern day life. Because how many life or death situations have you actually been in? Firefighters don't answer that. right? But how many of most of us actually been in? We don't have life or death, but your brain's very clever at tricking you into catastrophizing a situation and saying, get out of there, this is not for you, or this is going to be harmful. Most things is a perceived threat. So the threat state is playing more of an active daily role in our lives. The neutral state looks like this. Very much important. I am one person in this room who will hold my hand up and say, I don't spend enough time in neutral state. It is my blind spot. If you are a workaholic in the room, if you are driven, if you hate having downtime like me and you get itchy feet and 10 days into a 2-week holiday, you just want to get back to work because you're really sad, right? You might be like me, because neutral state for me too long is not good, but I need to spend more time in it. The reason is because your brain slows down to such a pace where it doesn't have to process complex information. It doesn't have to, have complex transactions in the brain. You can rest and restore. And the biggest thing about neutral state is you reflect. You only reflect in neutral state. You cannot reflect in challenge and threat. So we need to find time for it. The challenge state is equally as healthy. If all you do and you're in the room and you're the opposite and you don't push yourself into challenge state enough, in fact, this is probably the biggest thing you've done in a long time and it's already out your comfort zone, then trust me, these 3 days are an amazing thing for you, because you will be pushed in a challenge state, which ultimately is going to raise your resilience threshold and help you to endure a little bit of pain and discomfort more than you once did. And the reason why pushing into challenge is important is because if we do that enough, when you are in a true threat state, you will have more resilience and be able to deal with it than you once did. Not this threat state, by the way, because if I'm in this situation, I'm screaming, right? I'm screaming and swimming as fast as I can. But pushing into challenge helps you be more resilient with threat. Avoiding challenge only catastrophizes the situation in threat. And neutral state is so important between the two to be able to rest and recharge and go again. So modern day motivation, I chose this image on purpose because your brain is doing this every nanosecond of every day. It is exploding with brain chemicals, neurotransmitters, so often that it is tiresome. Go back to hunter-gatherer days. We have two main chemicals that I'm going to talk to you about. They're actually neuromodulators, but let's simplify. It's a chemical that floods the brain to make you do a certain thing. It was a simple equation 70,000 years ago. You had dopamine and you had cortisol and adrenaline. Dopamine floods your brain when you have the desire and motivation to go and achieve something. Dopamine is your reward chemical, but it actually drives the motivation behind what you do. You cannot be in a challenge state unless you've got dopamine flooding through your brain. Dopamine is a feel-good chemical. You then take on the challenge, and trust me, on Friday, you will go home and you will be so glad you did this, and you'll feel proud of yourself because dopamine will be flooding your brain because you've pushed into challenge state. Cortisol and adrenaline is your fight or flight. That's the one that floods when it goes, switch on, this is a risk, right? So for years ago, you would get up in the morning as a hunter-gatherer and you would say, I need to go and find food for my tribe. Dopamine would enter the brain. It would say, you need to go because it's key to our survival, but think about the reward at the end of it. You would set off on your endeavor with dopamine in your system. You would go and try and find your catch of the day. Halfway through the endeavor, you see a predator on the horizon. Cortisol floods the brain. Your eyes tunnel. Your hand-eye coordination reduces. Your heart rate increases and you switch onto the predator, threat state. What am I going to do? Am I going to fight or am I going to flight? You deal with the predator. The cortisol subsides. You carry on with your endeavor. You get your catch. Dopamine floods the brain as a reward. You go back to the campfire at the end of the day and you sit with your family and your tribe and you enjoy the meal that you have earned back in a neutral state, recharging the batteries, ready for the next day. That's how we've evolved. Fast forward to today. Our dopamine systems are under attack. I talk about this in the book. There is scientific evidence emerging that we are operating with depleted dopamine systems because we live in a world now where it's not just the motivation of going and finding food that releases dopamine. We release dopamine when we eat chocolate. We release dopamine when we consume any form of sugar. We release dopamine when we're on social media and we get a comment or a like. We release dopamine when we're scrolling through our news feeds. We release dopamine when we're online gaming. gambling, online pornography, you name it, digital drugs, is causing short bursts of dopamine, which our brain was never designed to be able to keep up with that level, if this is making sense. So we're constantly operating with depletion, which is leading to, when we do achieve something, or when we do go on an endeavor, we don't feel the same buzz that we should, because we haven't physically got the amount of dopamine in our brain to be able to do that. You combine that with the fact that if we are continuously doing the same things that I just mentioned, that you can release cortisol, because everything in the news will release cortisol now, isn't it? We've got cost of living crisis. World War III is on the horizon. Sugar's bad for you. Carbs is bad for you. Gluten's bad for you. It's everything. You're reading, everything in your bathroom cabinet can cause cancer, right? You see it all the time, so you're releasing cortisol. So the scales are tipping because we're reducing the dopamine system to enjoy pleasure, but we're increasing the amount of cortisol we release, even though it's only a perceived threat. I'm talking to the younger generations at the minute about this. I think I've got 3 children. We've got an amazing opportunity to get to Generation Z, Alpha and Beta, and talk to them about balancing the scales. Talk to them about how we can be more aware of this, because modern day motivation is doing that to the brain every single day. In the book, I talk about high and low road motivation. Just sit there for a second and listen to what I'm about to say. And if this is you, because it's me, and I'll admit it's me, it's maybe time when you leave this retreat to make a change. The life we live at the minute, the world we live in, the world we're going to continue living, is made for low road motivation. And it is inhibiting our ability to push into high road motivation. Let me explain. Low road motivation is when we can do something very quick and easy with little effort, and it will give us immediate gratification or rewards. High road motivation is where you're going to have to do something which offers a significant contribution. It might be hard, it will be challenging, and guess what? The results will be delayed. They won't be instant, they'll be delayed, and you may not get them at all. So I'll give you an example of this. Go into the gym. Phil's been this morning. By the way, Phil is 56 years old. He's the fittest man in this room. He's super impressive, Phil, already. I'm going to go get to the gym. Go into the gym. It's difficult. Your brain says you need to get in shape, right? It will do a quick calculation. It will come up with a low road and a high road alternative. It says join the gym. It's £100 a month. You're going to have to offer maybe 3 or 4 sessions a week. That's maybe 6 or 7 hours of your time. Guess what? It's going to ache like crazy. You're going to have to eat well, so you're going to have to really tidy up your diet. But the results after 6 months are going to be amazing. High road. Then the brain does a quick calculation in the world we live in and says, nah, sack that. Right? No, let's not do that. Go on Amazon, order an abs machine and some weight loss pills, and we'll give that a go first. The low road wins again. Quick, immediate results for very little effort. You may be leaving work one day and you think, right, I need to go home, I need to get some fresh produce from the supermarket, I'm going to prepare an amazing meal, I'm going to eat a healthy meal with wholesome produce. It's going to take me an hour to stop off. Then I've got to cook the meal, 45 minutes. Then I've got the cleanup operation afterwards. High road. The health benefits are worth it, right? Then the brain kicks in and says, don't do that. You've had a long day. Go on Just Eat, order a takeaway. It'll be at the door in seconds. And guess what? It'll taste even nicer. The low road wins again. The same with the elevator. You know you should walk 9 flights of stairs to get to the office because it's good for your steps. It's good for your fitness. But you can walk in the elevator, press 9 and be there in 30 seconds. The low road wins again. Does this make sense? And these are obvious examples, but we live in a world which is full of low road alternatives. We are low road motivation machines, and we were never built to do that. So what we need to do is we need to choose the high road consciously. We need to push into challenge state to balance our scales. Otherwise, we will suffer from a comfort crisis. We are suffering from a comfort crisis. Too much neutral state, too much low road, not good for the psychological balance. Then we end up going down a path of leadership styles, leadership models of going, got to be supportive, got to be compassionate, got to be empowering, got to be all these things. And it has to be. Don't get me wrong, I'm not here to say that they're not good things. But there in the balance is where great leadership and high performance occurs. So, finding the balance in the future. I think it is our duty as parents, as leaders, as people who are trying to guide the next generation of people through, to understand what I'm talking about this morning. And for us to lead by example of being better at enduring pain and discomfort, at pushing ourselves into challenge state, at raising our resilience threshold to deal with threat, and leading by example where we say, if we can do that, then we can go after the rewards, the fulfillment, and the purpose and the pleasure. And I think if we do that, leading by example will go a long way. We've also got a duty to understand the world they're growing up in. This comfort crisis I'm talking about, the way their dopamine systems are going to work, the way it's altered over the last 50 years. And we can't say they don't make them like they used to anymore. We've got to stop saying that. Never in the history of evolution has anything that has come after adjusted to what has come before. It's always an evolution of what's come before. So it's us who have made this environment that have got to understand the world they're growing up in. And we have to help them get that balance back with pain and pleasure. And if we do that, we're going to be one hell of a resilient species for another 70,000 years. So I would implore you going forward to, starting from today, to make a commitment that it is down to us to find this balance. It is down to us to push ourselves. It is down to us to know the world we are living in, but to also make sure that we are not turning into low-road motivation machines ourselves. We are not taking the neutral state. It's up to us to find that balance in our leadership styles, in our friendships, in our parenting styles, but we have to do it in the right way. We have to do it in a way which is together, which is positive, which is encouraging, which brings people on that journey. So I would like us to leave this room following the keynote into your groups this morning. Engage with your feedback. Do not flinch. We've all got it. You're going to read some amazing stuff. You're going to read some challenging stuff. You're going to read about your communication style, how you're maybe getting this right or wrong. Are you putting your people in a perpetual neutral state and they're never challenged? Is that a good thing for them? Are you on the complete opposite and you are challenging every single day in a bit more of a harsh or too direct way, and we've got to pull that back a little bit and balance the scales in the other direction? You're going to get all the information in your groups and in your consultants this morning to start on the front foot with this. But remember, the key to moving forward for us, for the generations behind us, is to balance the scales of pain and pleasure. And if you do that, we will return to be one hell of a resilient species. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much.